The air in the tiny apartment is so thick with tension, you could cut it with a knife. A single, buzzing light bulb overhead seems to make it worse. Elena is standing by the door, coat on, handbag clutched like a shield. Across the room, Liam's at their wobbly kitchen table, a plate of pasta forgotten in front of him. He's still in his paint-splattered work clothes, dark smudges of exhaustion under his eyes. "I can't do this anymore, Liam," Elena says, her voice sharp enough to cut through the hum of the fridge. Liam looks up, his fork clattering onto the plate. His face, already tired from a 12-hour shift, just crumples. "Do what? What are you talking about, El? I just got home." "This," she says, waving a hand at the cramped room, the peeling paint, the stack of bills on the counter. "Us. This life. I need more. I need someone with ambition." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. "I have ambition," Liam says, his voice low and wounded as he pushes his chair back to stand. "My project. Innovate Hub, that's my ambition. It just needs time. I thought you believed in me. In us. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and like the video." Elena lets out a short, bitter laugh. "Belief doesn't pay the bills, Liam. Belief doesn't fix the car when it breaks down for the 3rd time this month. And it definitely doesn't stop my friends from looking at me with pity when I say we're having mac and cheese for the 4th night in a row." She takes a step toward the door, her voice getting harder with every word. "I love you, but I can't build a future on it, just needs time. I'm tired of waiting for your big break. I need security. I need a real life, not a project." Liam's eyes are pleading. "Don't do this. We've been through so much. We can get through this. The app is close, El. I can feel it." "I'm sorry," she says, but the finality in her tone tells him she isn't. She pulls her keys from her pocket, slides the apartment key off the ring, and sets it on the entryway table. The click of metal on wood echoes in the sudden, crushing silence. "I have to go." She turns and walks out, closing the door behind her without a second glance. Liam is left standing alone in the suffocating quiet of the life she just condemned. The breakup. The click of the lock was the loudest sound Liam had ever heard. It was final. He stood frozen, staring at the door, half expecting her to burst back in, saying it was all some horrible joke. But all that came was silence, a silence that made the apartment feel painfully empty. He sank back into his chair. That plate of pasta looked like a monument to his failure. His eyes drifted around the room, where every object was now a ghost. There was the framed photo on the bookshelf from their trip to the coast. They had almost no money, staying in a cheap motel and eating sandwiches, but they'd never been happier. Elena's smile in that photo was real, something he hadn't seen in months. What happened to that girl? The one who said his dreams were her dreams? He remembered their 2nd anniversary. He'd saved for months to buy her a delicate silver bracelet with the tiny compass charm. "So you always find your way back to me," he'd whispered. She had cried, saying it was the most thoughtful gift she'd ever gotten. He wondered if she was still wearing it. Probably not. A silver bracelet wouldn't fit in with the new life she was chasing. Her words echoed in his head. Asterisk, I need someone with ambition. Asterisk, he glanced at his desk. A mess of wires, empty energy drink cans, and notebooks full of code. His old, beat-up laptop was open to the project that had consumed him for 2 years. This was his ambition. Innovate Hub, an app to connect freelance artists with small businesses, a fair marketplace for creative people just like him. It wasn't just a project. It was everything he believed in. He tried to explain it to her so many times. At first, she listened, her eyes bright with excitement. But as investor rejections piled up and money got tighter, her excitement faded into impatience. Her support turned into ultimatums. He picked up his phone and called his best friend, Mark. "Hey man, you up?" Liam's voice was hoarse. "For you. Always. What's wrong? You sound awful." "She's gone, Mark. Elena left me." A heavy sigh came from the other end. "Oh, Liam, I'm so sorry. What happened?" "The usual," Liam said, a hollow laugh escaping him. "Money. My lack of ambition." Said she couldn't wait around for my project anymore. Mark paused. Listen, I know this hurts like hell, but don't hate me for saying this. Are you sure she wasn't a little bit right? Not about the ambition part. You're the most driven guy I know. But about the project. You've put everything into this. Maybe it's time to get a regular 9-to-5 for a while. Just get stable. Liam's heart sank. Even his best friend, his biggest supporter, had his doubts. The same doubts that ate away at Elena. He felt completely and utterly alone. I can't, Liam whispered, more to himself than to Mark. This is everything. It has to be. Okay, man. Okay. I'm on your side, Mark said. Just take care of yourself. Liam ended the call and walked to the bathroom, staring at his reflection. He saw a man who was tired, heartbroken, and totally defeated. He saw the man Elena had just walked out on. But as he looked deeper, past the pain, he saw a flicker of something else. A stubborn, defiant spark. The world could doubt him. The love of his life could leave him. But he was the one who had to live with his choices. Staring at his own reflection, Liam made a silent vow. He would not let her be right. He would take this pain, this heartbreak, and turn it into fuel. Her walking out wouldn't be the end of his story. It would be the beginning. The next 5 years were a blur of caffeine, code, and soul-crushing hardship. Liam became a ghost, haunting late-night coffee shops and co-working spaces. His life shrank to 3 things: his day job, his night job, and the few hours of sleep he got in between, often with his cheek pressed against his warm laptop. First, he took a job as a barista. The early morning shifts let him code in the afternoons, the smell of burnt milk becoming the scent of his survival. At night, he worked as a freelance web developer, taking on boring, low-paying gigs just to keep a roof over his head, and that roof was in a tiny, windowless room he rented, a huge step down from the home he'd shared with Elena. This was the grind. It was humbling and it was exhausting. There were nights he'd stare at the ceiling, feeling the weight of his loneliness, and wonder if Elena had been right. The thought was poison, but he'd swallow it down and turn back to his screen. Then came the rejections. He started pitching a rough prototype of Innovate Hub. He emailed hundreds of venture capitalists and got 3 replies. All of them were no. He started sneaking into tech meetups, trying to get anyone to listen to his 60-second pitch. The rejections were brutal. The gig economy is a race to the bottom. No thank you. Your UI is clunky. Your tech is outdated. Start over. One woman patted his arm and said, "It's a nice little idea, dear, but you can't compete with the big players." Each no chipped away at him. The turning point didn't come in a fancy boardroom. It came on a rainy Tuesday at the coffee shop. An older gentleman who had been sitting in the corner walked over to Liam's table. "That looks like more than a doodle," the man said. Startled, Liam looked up. "Oh, it's just a project I'm working on." "What kind of project?" the man asked, pulling up a chair. Hesitantly at first, then with a flood of pent-up passion, Liam explained everything. He talked for 10 minutes straight, expecting the man to get bored and leave. But he just listened, nodding slowly. When Liam finished, the man smiled. "My name is David Chun," he said, extending a hand. "For 30 years, I was the lead software architect at a major tech firm. Your idea, it has legs, son, but your approach is all wrong." David didn't invest a single dollar. He gave Liam something far more valuable, mentorship. Twice a week they met. David tore apart his code and helped him rebuild it, cleaner and more efficient. He helped him refine his business plan. He introduced him to a designer. Most importantly, David rebuilt Liam's shattered confidence. Armed with a new prototype and David's guidance, Liam landed a meeting with a small investment firm. He walked in a different man. He wasn't a desperate barista anymore. He was a founder. He was confident, and his belief in his product was infectious. This time, the answer was yes. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough. Enough to quit his jobs, rent a tiny office, and hire his first employee. Meanwhile, Elena's life had gone in a different direction. She had gotten what she wanted, or so it seemed. She was with Mark, a sales director who drove a luxury car and took her to fancy restaurants. He bought her the designer handbags she used to dream about, but the shine wore off fast. Their dinners were quiet, with Mark constantly scrolling through work emails. There was no shared passion, no late-night talks about dreams. Elena had traded Liam's chaotic passion for sterile comfort, and the silence was chilling. Her career had stalled, and she felt like she was running in place on a very expensive treadmill. She had the security she wanted, but it felt like a gilded cage. One evening, scrolling through social media, she saw a link to a tech blog. Innovate Hub, the little app that's revolutionizing the creative gig economy. Her heart gave a strange thump. The article praised the app and its founder's unwavering commitment. At the bottom was a professional headshot of Liam Dawson. He looked different. The exhaustion was gone, replaced by a quiet intensity. Elena felt a confusing mix of pride, surprise, and a big, ugly dose of regret. She quickly closed the tab. Good for him, she muttered to the empty room, but her voice was hollow. Hashtag CTA midroll. This whole story really comes down to a choice. Elena chose what looked like security, a life that was already built, forgetting that pre-built things don't always have room for you. Liam chose to believe in himself, even when the person who should have been his biggest supporter didn't. He chose the hard path. It's a powerful reminder that real success, the kind that actually fulfills you, is almost never a straight line. What do you think is more important in a partner? Where they are now, or where they're trying to go? Let me know in the comments. And if you believe in the power of not giving up, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Hashtag Section 3, the chance encounter. The invitation called it the Annual Innovators of Tomorrow Gala. Elena was there as her boss's +1, a fact that made her deeply uncomfortable. Her relationship with Mark had fizzled out a year before. Attending this gala felt less like a fun night out and more like a loud reminder of her own stalled life. She stood near the back of the grand ballroom, feeling like an imposter in a sea of people buzzing with purpose. Her boss had ditched her to go network, leaving her to drift awkwardly by herself. She watched people, some younger than her, command attention, their faces lit up with the same fire she used to see in Liam's eyes. A familiar ache echoed in her chest. Later, the lights dimmed for the main award. Our final award tonight is the most prestigious, the host announced. The Innovator of the Year. It goes to someone whose vision has fundamentally changed their industry. Elena listened politely, not really paying attention. This year's winner is a true testament to resilience, the host continued. He started with nothing more than an idea and an old laptop in a cramped apartment. He faced hundreds of rejections. He worked odd jobs, pouring every ounce of his being into his vision. Elena's attention snapped into focus. The story sounded familiar, but he refused to give up. Today, his company is valued at over $500 million and helps over 1 million freelance creatives find work. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 Innovator of the Year is the founder and CEO of Innovate Hub, Mr. Liam Dawson. The name hit Elena like a physical blow. The blood drained from her face. It couldn't be. It had to be a different Liam Dawson. But then he walked onto the stage. It was him, but it wasn't. The boy she left was gone. In his place stood a man in a perfectly tailored suit, moving with an easy confidence that owned the room. He wasn't the tired dreamer she remembered. He was the powerful man she'd accused of having no ambition. He accepted the award with a small, genuine smile and stepped up to the microphone. "Wow," he began, his voice calm and steady. "Thank you. I am truly humbled." He thanked his team, his investors, and his mentor David. Elena watched, mesmerized, as the man she'd thrown away was celebrated as a visionary. Then he paused, his eyes sweeping the crowd. "Building something from nothing is a strange journey," he said, his tone turning reflective. "It tests you. And sometimes," he glanced down at the award, "the greatest motivation comes from those who doubt you the most. Their lack of faith can become the fuel that lights your fire. When someone tells you that you are not enough, you have two choices: believe them or prove them wrong." I'll forever be grateful to the people who believed in me, but I also have to be strangely thankful for those who didn't. The words weren't aimed at her, but they might as well have been. He didn't have to say her name. She was the doubt. She was the lack of faith. She was the one who told him he wasn't enough. The ballroom erupted in a standing ovation. Elena sat frozen, invisible in the roaring crowd. He was a massive, undeniable success, and she was the fool who had walked away. The revelation and regret. As the applause died down, a crowd swarmed Liam at the foot of the stage. Elena watched from a distance, her mind reeling. The story she had told herself for 5 years, that she'd made a tough but smart choice, was crumbling around her. She had talked to him. Taking a shaky breath, she wove through the crowd. He was laughing with some investors when his eyes met hers. For a split second, she saw a flicker of surprise, a shadow of the old Liam, before his composure returned. He excused himself and walked toward her. "Elena," he said. His voice was level, polite, and 1,000 miles away. "It's been a long time." "Liam," she managed, her voice weak. "Wow. I saw you on stage. This is incredible." "Thank you," he said, with the kind of courtesy you'd show a stranger. An awkward silence hung between them. "I'm so happy for you," she said. "I really am. I always knew you had it in you." The lie was so pathetic she cringed as it left her lips. A faint, knowing sadness touched his mouth. He was too classy to call her out on it. "I appreciate that," he said. He looked right at her, and she saw no anger, just a deep, settled peace. "You know, for the first year after you left, I was angry, heartbroken. I replayed that last conversation 1,000 times. Your words, they were like the soundtrack to my failure." Elena flinched. "But then," he continued, "something shifted. I realized you didn't leave because of who I was. You left because of what I had, or what I didn't have. You looked at my life and saw an empty bank account, an old car, a tiny apartment. You saw a deficit. I get it, but you were looking at the wrong ledger." He took a small step closer. "You thought I was broke, Elena, but I wasn't. I was investing. Every dollar I didn't spend on a fancy dinner, every hour I didn't sleep, it was all being invested in a dream. You saw an empty wallet, but you missed the mind that was overflowing with ideas. You saw a guy who was struggling, but you didn't see the foundation he was building. This," he gestured at the opulent room, "the money, the success, this is just a byproduct. The real wealth was the passion you walked away from." Tears pricked her eyes. Every word was true. She'd been so focused on what he lacked that she was completely blind to who he was. Just then, a woman with kind, intelligent eyes approached and put a gentle hand on Liam's arm. "Everything okay?" she asked him softly. "Everything's fine," Liam said, turning to her with a genuine warmth that made Elena's heart ache. "Elena, this is Chloe. Chloe, this is an old friend, Elena." Then he added, "Chloe was my first employee. She signed on when Innovate Hub was just a messy office and a mountain of debt. She believed in the vision when it was just scribbles and notebook." Chloe smiled warmly at Elena. "It's a pleasure to meet you." The words were kind, but they carried a devastating weight. Chloe knew the whole story. She was the one who had believed. The contrast was crushing. Chloe hadn't just found a successful man. She had helped build one. The full weight of Elena's mistake finally landed. It wasn't just the money she'd missed out on. It was the journey, the partnership, the man. She traded a diamond in the rough for a polished, empty stone. "It was nice to see you, Liam," she stammered. "Congratulations again." She turned and walked away, not looking back, the burn of unshed tears blurring her vision. Section 5. The moral conclusion. Elena pushed through the doors of the ballroom and out into the cool, indifferent night. The sounds of the party faded, leaving her alone with her regret. She had judged Liam's worth by his bank account. She saw his struggle not as a phase, but as a fatal flaw. In her search for security, she completely missed the richness of his character and the power of his perseverance. She wanted a finished product, unwilling to be part of the messy, rewarding process of building something great. True wealth isn't a number in an account. It's found in passion. It's forged in perseverance. It's measured in the courage to face down doubt and build a dream from nothing. The greatest partners aren't the ones who show up at the finish line to applaud. They're the ones down in the trenches with you, who believe in your victory when it's still invisible to everyone else. Inside, Liam and Chloe stand in a quiet corner. He isn't looking at his award. He's looking at her. He reaches out and gently brushes stray hair from her face. They share a smile of two people who have built a world together. They are the real prize. It's a tough lesson, but an important one. Never value a person based on what they have. Value them for who they are, and more importantly, for who they're striving to be. Because you should never, ever underestimate someone who has nothing to lose. They just might have everything to gain. #CTA outro. What did you take away from this story? Do you think Elena's desire for security was understandable, or was she just short-sighted? Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more stories that make you think. We'll see you in the next one.